Back in 2003, one of my closest friends and I took a 9,000-mile road trip around the USA, Mexico, and Canada. This is the 5th episode in that crazy story, so stick around. Let's get into it. Roll that intro. Hi all, Keith here. Welcome to the video. Before we go much further, make sure you pause the video and click that subscribe button and ring that notification bell so you don't miss any upcoming videos. If you didn't see the last episode in this story, I'll go ahead and link it up here if you want to watch that first and then come back to this video. But just a quick recap though, in the last episode I told you about the dust devils that we saw when driving into Las Vegas. Took you to the Grand Canyon, then headed south of the border to Puerto Penasco, Mexico for some beach fun. Where I last left you, we were heading back to the USA from Mexico, and we were at the USA-Mexico border. So if you've been watching this entire series, you'll know that in episode 2, we had some fun getting back into the US from Canada. Our car got searched then, but luckily that didn't happen this time. If you don't remember from the last episode, I was actually driving, and so I was the one talking to the border agent. He was asking us the standard questions, and he wanted to see our IDs and things like that. And then he asked us where we were coming from. Is anyone else like this? If you're in like a stressful situation, sometimes your mind just goes absolutely blank and you can't remember a dang thing. That happened to me in this very moment. The border agent asked an easy enough question. He just said, "Where have you guys been?" And in that moment, I couldn't think of Puerto Penasco, so I said Puerto Vallarta. Whoops! In case you don't know, Puerto Vallarta, Mexico is about a 21-hour drive from Puerto Penasco, Mexico. So the border agent was probably correct in his suspicion of how we got there and back in one day. While driving, he started like really pressing me on it too. He was like, "Do you know how far that is, sir? Do you know how far that is, sir? I don't understand how you can make it in one day, sir." And I'm just like deer in a headlights at this point. And Phil was like, "He meant Puerto Penasco." And then the agent looked at him and then looked back at me and was like, "Did you really go to Puerto Penasco?" And I was like, "Yes, Puerto Penasco. I forgot, I'm sorry." So at this moment, if you're keeping track, we have two conflicting stories, and the border agent did not look amused. Much like in Canada, it was at this very moment that I thought, we are getting detained at this border. But luckily, with a little talking from Phil and me, he seemed to be okay with our story changing, and we got right back into the USA. Woo! That was a close one. Now, I'm not sure if every U.S.-Mexico border has this, but the way we drove in, we had to go through 2 checkpoints to get back into the United States. And I didn't know this. It wasn't like right back to back. It was like 5 or 10 miles up the road, we hit another checkpoint. But luckily, after being through the last one, I felt like a pro at this time, and I did great on my second time around with the border agent, and we got right back into the United States. So the next day, we headed off to Carlsbad Caverns in New Mexico. Now, I've been to Mammoth Cave in Kentucky, but that was my only experience with caves before I went to Carlsbad. The thing that I noticed first off that I didn't see as much at Mammoth Cave was just the size of the room seemed huge. It seemed like you could fit tall buildings in there. It was awesome. We did have definitely a great tour, and I would highly recommend if you're in the area, that's one place to go check out. But it wasn't just the cave that's the star at Carlsbad. Something really special happens here every night at dusk. It was the flight of the bats. Every night at the mouth of the cave, thousands of bats come out and go looking for some dinner. There's like a whole pre-show. The rangers give you the whole spiel and everything, and they tell you there's going to be a lot of bats here. And you're just like, you can't really picture. You're like, okay, a lot of bats. What does that even mean? Until one starts coming out, then 2, then like a whole bunch, and then it's just like a cloud of black swirling bats flying over your head. It was the most surreal and kind of awesome experience that I've ever had. So if you ever go to Carlsbad Caverns, stick around for the bats coming out at night, because that was equally as impressive as the cave itself. Anyway, from Carlsbad, we headed off to Roswell, New Mexico to check out some aliens, we hoped. If you've ever driven into Roswell, you'll know things out there are a little bit different. For example, the street signs. Instead of like a deer crossing that you might see here in the Midwest, they had literal aliens on the sign, and it said like alien crossing. And there was also no shortage of themed alien stuff around just driving through the area. It's aliens everywhere out there, which, hey, I get that. We drove into town a little bit late, so nothing was really open, so we went and tried to find a place to stay, and we found this Best Western. I don't even know if it's still there. I tried looking it up online, but I couldn't find it. But it was this Best Western that was UFO themed. So of course we had to stop in. Now this thing wasn't really a hotel, more like an old school motel, you know, where you go to the entrance and then you like get the key and then drive up to your door and then go in that way. It was retro old school, let me tell you. But it was super awesome. I just remember there was like in the front part, like the porte-cochere part, wherever you go in, there was just like this big alien spaceship right there. It was really neat. Amazingness aside, it was getting like a little bit late this time, so all we really wanted to do was just settle in for the night and relax. And the guy we met that was working behind the counter was an odd one for sure. He seemed oddly interested in finding out if Phil and I were a couple for some reason. I don't remember all we talked about, but I do distinctly remember us being there for a very long time talking to this guy. But we finally got our keys and headed off to our room. Now, it was alien themed to the T. There was like spaceships everywhere. I even think there was like stars on the ceiling and stuff like that. Pictures of aliens all over the walls. It was definitely a clean room. Like, it wasn't dirty or grungy or anything like that. I remember thinking, this is surprisingly clean for what I was expecting. But the thing was, after we met the guy at the front desk, the hotel kind of gave us like the Psycho vibe, if you know what I mean. It kind of had that look, and we were kind of wondering if like the guy was like peering in at us through the alien paintings, like, you know, behind the wall looking in at us. We just got this feeling like we were being watched the entire time we were in this hotel. But that being said, we finally did get some sleep and got out of that place as fast as we could in the morning. The next day we went back through Roswell, and we didn't stop at the Alien Museum because it was closed for whatever reason. But we did visit some shops in town and walk through the downtown Roswell area. It was pretty neat. Alien stuff everywhere, as you can imagine. After we got our fill of aliens, we headed off to the Alamo in San Antonio, Texas. Now, one thing I never really realized about Texas before this trip was just how ginormous that state is. I think literally almost 2 full days of our trip were spent in Texas, and we didn't hardly stop at all. But we got to San Antonio, and I will say that town has a vibe. It's got like canals everywhere, and art and music, and it was lights, and it was just beautiful. Anyway, we found the Alamo, and I thought it was pretty amazing. The one thing I would say about the Alamo tour, though, that we took was I wasn't really expecting for like how emotional I would get at the end. We took the audio tour, and it was really good. And I just remember like at the end, you know, they have like the General Custer's last stand thing or whatever, and it's just like the way the audio I don't know, it just invoked a lot of emotions. It was a great audio tour. I would suggest doing that if you have the time. It did get me a little choked up for sure. But after we visited the Alamo, we decided to hop in the car and drive a little bit south to Padre Island. When we rolled into Padre Island, it wasn't really that dark out. It was, I think, like 6 or 7, something like that. So we hung out on the beach a little bit, and then we found this like area where you can actually camp on like the beach, and we thought, that's amazing. It'd be great to fall asleep listening to the ocean right there. So we went ahead and paid our money, and you know, we had that tent Phil bought, but we hadn't used since we were at Wind Cave National Park. So we drove over to our campsite, and we were getting ready to set up. But I don't know if you've been watching this series, but we never stayed in one place for very long, and just sitting there relaxing was nice, but we were sort of thinking, we gotta go, we gotta see, do, you know. We were in that mentality, really, and so we didn't end up staying there because we looked at the map and we're like, oh, Houston's right here, then we're on to Louisiana, so why don't we just try and go up to Houston for the night, and then we'll be that much closer to Louisiana, so we'll have a short drive into New Orleans the next day. So that's what we did. Now, looking at the map at the time, because again, we didn't have Google Maps on our phone, so we couldn't just like punch in the thing and have exact mileage in hours. I was thinking, oh, it'll be like an hour and a half, 2 hours. It was like 3.5 to 4 hours worth of driving to get from Padre Island to Houston, Texas. So when we rolled into Houston, it was like really late and we were just exhausted. Phil was like, oh, we could just find a rest area and pull off and sleep in the car. And I was like, no, I am not sleeping in the car in the middle of Houston, Texas. No way, no how. So we drove around for a little bit and looked for a hotel that was okay. The one we found was quite a doozy. And when I say a doozy, I mean a doozy. Scary. Anyway, I'm going to leave you right there for now, but make sure you check back next week so you can hear about our scary hotel experience in Houston, Texas. Anyway, make sure you hang out for just a little bit longer because we'll have some end cards with some video suggestions, and we'd love it if you'd watch another video. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss any upcoming videos. Click the join button down there below to find out all the benefits of becoming a member of the channel. If you want a little less commitment but still want to support the channel, head over to our Ko-fi page. It's a way for you to drop us like a virtual tip. Any way you choose to support the channel, we really appreciate it. Alright everyone, we'll catch you in the next video. Thanks a lot for watching. Peace and love.